Hey guys, this is Chandler Rose and Karina is here, and today I'm going to talk about how to use a yoga block to release low back tension. I learned about this when I was pregnant. It was really hard for me to release any tension in my low back. So this is a great tool for any kind of low back tension, also leg tension, back tension. So let's get started. Karina, I'm going to have you lay on this yoga mat, and we're going to use the sides of the block and the corners of the block to work more detailed on these areas that I'm talking about. But first, I'll just start by having you slide this yoga block under your sacrum, which is the bone, the flat bone in your hips. And I'm just going to have you set that block under you and let you relax your back on this block. And it's great to take a few slow, deep breaths here to allow the tissue to relax and to kind of let your whole body just ease itself into the block. You can also experiment with where your feet are and your knees are. She's in a good position to start, a very safe position. Again, this is something I learned when I was pregnant that really helped me, but it can be used for all sorts of low back tension, especially if you're sitting at a desk and you get pain in your low back on one hip or the other. And Karina's doing a great job at just kind of adjusting her body in different ways to allow this pressure of the block to open up her pelvis on this side. I really like using a block for this area as opposed to a tennis ball or a therapy ball, because it's very gentle, it has some give to it, and you may feel your sacrum or your hip bones adjust themselves as you're doing this, which is okay and very natural. And again, you can just kind of let the weight of your hips completely disperse. She's moving her feet out a little bit, which also helps. Then after a couple minutes in this position, just a very restful position, you can slowly move the block up the spine to the middle of the back. Again, you just want to be careful of any kind of low back pain or injuries in the spine. If you're pregnant and you're using this to release the back, you can also have someone assist you depending on how your flexibility is and how you're feeling. And as you use the block moving up the spine, you're going to feel your rib cage open, and you can just allow that to happen. Just allow your body to be really heavy, and think about your head being really relaxed. You don't want to think too much as you're doing this. You want this to be more like a meditation, self-care, self-massage. You want this to be about relaxing and not about going super deep, and allowing your body to adjust itself on the block. Again, if you are pregnant, it's really hard to get deep work on the back when you have a belly in front of you. You can't lay face down. After the first trimester, you have to be really careful. So this pressure on the spine allows you to arch your back and give you a little more space, which allows the legs and hips to open. So as she's here, I'm just going to have her kind of experiment with how that feels. And then when she's ready, maybe move the block up the spine. You can also place the block so it's lined up with your spine and not wide, but this way, right? And it offers just a different, it's very subtle, but it offers a different kind of pressure this way. And she's doing a very good job at opening up her arms, allowing her chest to expand and really focus on the breath, which is really important, and thinking about the exhale being very long and drawn out and relaxed. So she's gonna just move this up, and you can go at your own pace. Also, if there's a point where you feel any kind of pain in your back, I would just say stop. You can just focus on the sacrum or the hips and not go up the back, depending on how you feel. But this is a good way for the ribs to adjust themselves. So what we're going to do next is we're going to use the sides of the block, the corner of the block, to work within the hip muscles. So just on myself, I want to work along the line of the sacrum where all the hip muscles and glute muscles attach. There's also a great muscle deep in there called the piriformis, which can cause a lot of pain in anyone that's sitting or driving or sitting at a desk, or with pregnancy, you can really dive the corners of the block into those deep tissue muscles of those glute minimus, glute medius, glute maximus is really easy to reach, and focusing on that side of the sacrum is super important for relieving tension. So Karina's starting with her right side of her body, and she's placing the block in different positions, and you can decide how it feels and experiment with how you're laying on the block. But you really want to, if you find a spot that's really tender, I would suggest to just stay on that spot for a couple seconds, like a trigger point during a massage. When you're getting worked on, you want that person to work in that area and release that specific tension before you move to the next place. You can experiment with putting the block up on its side or just moving it so you get a good corner in an area that's really tight or tender. You also might feel that tension on one side of the body is more extreme than the other, but it's really important to, when you work on that side of the body, to also go to the other side with the block after a few minutes. I would say 5 to 10 minutes tops on one side of the body for this. And you just want this to be about your own stretch, your own practice. You want to increase range of motion in the leg. This is also really going to take pressure off the knee and the hip joint. This is the best way to get deep tissue pressure. For anyone that's pregnant, you're really going to utilize the corners of the block to do this kind of work. So Karina's going to move the block to the other side and use the corner on the left side. And she's going to just kind of sway into a point that feels tender for her. And again, this is on the center of that side of the glute and along the bony parts where the muscles attach. And if you feel a spot that's extra tender, extra tight, or painful, I would suggest, if there's no injury, to just stay on that point for a few moments and breathe. And you can keep this kind of like a rolling practice where you're continuing to move and roll and experiment with where your leg is and your foot is, and also find a point and just stay in that spot. It can be just as simple, of course, to just use the block as pressure to alleviate pressure on the sacrum, using it in the center of the spine. That's a really safe way to use the block. And that's the way I like to end this practice, is to just go back and put the block under the center of the sacrum, the flat bone where all those muscles connect. And there's also muscles that lay on top of the sacrum that can cause tenderness and pain. And this is going to allow those little muscles to get some opposing pressure to It's such a good way to release the low back for anyone that's driving a lot or just has one side of their body that's feeling really tight. This kind of resets the girdle of the sacrum and how everything sits in the hips. It's just a good way to give that pressure on that side without laying on the belly. So Karina's in a really good rest position on the block, and I just want to talk about how it's so important to get up from this position. So first off, I just want her to gently take out the block from this area. And after this kind of deep work in these tissues, it's really important that you roll to your side to get up and not get up using your abs, especially if you're pregnant. But anyone, I would say, getting up from the side, and she did that perfectly, is a very safe way to protect your back. You don't want to pick up your back from this position because you could injure those areas that we just worked on. So definitely roll to one side or the other to get up. And in this position, I just want to go back to using the block for any kind of chest opening, a lot of tension from forward shoulder posture, from any kind of computer work, any kind of driving, having your arms forward, typing. The block can be used as a chest opener. It can also help with pain and tension around the spine, specifically between the shoulder blades and all the way up into the upper thoracics, which is the rib cage, and the trapezius, which a lot of people complain about. So you can place the block vertical or in this position. That's perfect. It's a good way to start, and you can also add height if you decide you want more arch in the back. And you want your spine to be in the center of the block, and then you can adjust where your hips are. So you may want to inch your hips towards the block or move the block down a little bit. And this is just a great chest opener. Helps alleviate tension in the back in the most gentle way, and it's still great for any kind of knots along the spine or in between the shoulder blades, and you may feel pops, and generally that's going to be your rib cage. A lot of people think, oh, I have a knot in my back, I feel this spot that really bothers me, and it's actually a rib out of place, which is really common to have one side complain over another. Maybe you're right-handed and super right dominant. So using this to reset the spine and allow the chest to open, and then you can experiment with where you want your arms as a pec opener. This is also just a great pec stretch, and you just want your neck comfortable, your head comfortable, depending on your own flexibility. You just always want your head and neck to be relaxed when you're doing this kind of work. So don't think about it too much. Just be very gentle with your head and neck. And again, when you are doing this stretch, just allow those muscles to open by taking slow, deep breaths and really thinking about the exhale being long. A good way to get to a place where your breath is very slow for this kind of therapy is to breathe in to the count of 5, a slow 5, and out to the count of 12. The intention is to get the exhale really long and the nervous system to respond, to relax. And after about 5 to 10 minutes tops of this kind of therapy, you're gonna very slowly get up, and then once you stand up, you'll notice that the whole floor of your pelvis will feel different, especially if you're pregnant. This saved me. I ended up having a lot of leg and low back tension. Not a whole lot of pain, but just general tension the last few months of my pregnancy because of the weight distribution. So much weight being forward. This is a way to offer some relaxation and arch in the back. I just wanted to show you one more way you can use the block for back pain between the shoulder blades, and this is for one side of the back or the other. And I'm gonna have Karina turn around so I can show you where I want the focus to be. So a lot of people use a tennis ball and they lay on a tennis ball and roll in this area here or in this area here between the shoulder blades, which is where most people, when they get a massage, they just want me to focus here for a long time, because that's where so much of our range of motion comes from. You can also use the block for this. I like it because it stays in place. You need to be careful of how you set it and how you roll onto it. And this is a little more advanced as far as your own flexibility and core strength. So again, be careful getting in and out of this position. I'm gonna have Karina set the block in the way she feels most comfortable with her back and her flexibility, and then I'm gonna have her use the side and the corner of the block to work in the spots that she's feeling tight or tender. And the great part about doing self-care, self-massage on yourself is that you can go to your own depth, and sometimes you can even go deeper than someone else can because you're using your own body weight. So you can go pretty deep, and you might feel ribs adjust, you might feel some popping, also very, very common. And the block is spongy, where a tennis ball or a therapy ball sometimes is very hard. So you have some give with the block. I believe it's very safe for self-massage, which is why I really like it. So Karina, I'm just gonna have you use this block and show us how you can release the tension between your shoulder blades, specifically on the right side of your body. So she's setting it up at the position she feels like her body can handle as far as her arch. And she's also being careful of her own head and neck and using the support of her hand and arm and working on that spot. So some people, when they use the block, they really slowly like to move on the block and work into the tissue that way. You can also just stay in one spot for a few moments and breathe and use it that way as well. You can also adjust which way you're putting the block to increase the arch in the spine. This is also heart opening, which in yoga, any kind of heart opening postures can allow for more expansion of this chest and heart chakra. It also can bring up some emotions as well. So if you're ever in this chest posture and you feel a little funny or you feel like something is coming up, that's really common for any kind of chest opening. We, in most of our lives, we're forward in our posture. So any kind of position that's chest opening can feel oppositional to what we're used to. And she's switching the block to the other side to make her body feel even. And you might have more tension on one side of the body than the other. So one side might feel more pleasurable to work on that specific point. Again, you don't want to use the corners on the spine. You want the corners or the side of the block to be in the meaty part of your muscles, places where you're feeling like you'd have someone massage or use their thumbs or use their forearm to relax that tension. This is such a great tool for self-massage, for self-care. And a yoga block, you only need one. You don't even need two. They're super cheap on Amazon. I found this one at Target for less than $5. And I use it all the time for self-massage. I just think it's an awesome tool, specifically for pregnant women. Saved my last few months of time of feeling uncomfortable, saved my back. Thank you so much for watching this video, and you can see more videos on self-care, self-massage on Wellness Plus.
with hundreds of videos that you can stream on virtually any device to help you reduce stress, lose weight, or just improve your health and well-being overall. At wellnessplus.tv, we are dedicated to helping you on your health and wellness journey. Join wellnessplus.tv to find hundreds of videos to help you improve the health of your body and your mind. wellnessplus.tv. Get well, feel better.